Hey everyone, welcome to asynchronous session for week 5. Today we're going to be going over blank verse. So we should be reading Romeo and Juliet, should be the second half of the play by now. And you should have seen, a couple of the checkpoints and stuff. We're talking about blank verse and different forms of poetry. So we're just going to go a little bit more in depth about it. I know in exam 5 you're going to be asked a few questions about it. So let's go ahead and get started. Just as a little warm up, we can go with the fun game of seeing how many syllables in your name. We can start well, we'll just do mine. Angelita. I have it already separated here, so I have 4 syllables in my name. 2 of them are stressed and 2 of them are unstressed. Now, if you haven't learned how to break words apart into syllables, or like how many syllables in a word, there's a couple tricks. Some people clap. So Angelita. You could tap, or something that I do to be able to, make sure that I'm not just clapping randomly throughout a name to figure out how many syllables or how many times I can clap. One thing is when you say the word out loud, see how many times your mouth opens and closes. So if we were to say Angelita, your mouth closes in between the letters to make the different sounds, and that helps you be able to count how many syllables there are. And you'll see some of them say stressed and unstressed. That's going to be basically showing how your voice naturally fluctuates as you're saying a word. And we're going to get in more into that for iambic pentameter and stuff. Right now, if we were to look at my name, because of the order where it's stressed, unstressed, stressed, unstressed, my name is actually is about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of trochee pentameter. So that's the order of being stressed and unstressed, whereas iambic pentameter would be backwards, would be unstressed, stressed, unstressed, stressed. Or sorry, this is 2 sets of trochee. So it's something you can look at. So if you have trouble, because there's going to be questions where you have to read a line of poetry and be able to determine, what if it's trochee or iambic pentameter or dactyl. It may feel a little bit weird, but it's probably going to be easier if you just say the words out loud or say the line out loud and maybe even try to exaggerate as you're saying it. This will help you really notice the sounds and notice when things are stressed and unstressed. So, Angelita. Angelita. So when you're saying it, that's naturally how your voice goes. If you need to slow it down and maybe exaggerate it, that's a good thing to do. Make it a little dorky a little bit, because I'm just sitting here saying my name really slow and loud and weird, but it does help. So something to keep in mind. So blank verse, this is really easy. It's just unrhymed poetry written in iambic pentameter. But I know some of these terms may be unfamiliar. Unless you're really involved or interested in poetry, these are not things that you typically, it's like, okay, I'm going to remember what this is. Or maybe you've never even seen this kind of vocabulary before, and that's okay. We know unrhymed poetry just means that there's no rhyme scheme. So at the end of each line, it's not cat, hat, bok, or cat, hat, bat, sat. Right? There's no words that are rhyming. There's no rhyme scheme at all at the end of it. It's unrhymed poetry, iambic pentameter. So that's going to be something that Shakespeare does a lot. It's one of his trademarks. We talked about how wordplay was another one of them. Iambic pentameter is what most of his works are written in. So basically, it's one line of verse with a total of 10 syllables. So if you've ever listened to, or not listened, but like read a haiku, you know that there's, I think it's 575 or 7557, don't remember. But there's a certain amount of syllables. It's 3-line poetry, certain amount of syllables in each line. Same concept, but each line of poetry is going to have exactly 10 syllables. And the way that it's written is where it's going to be a stressed syllable followed by an unstressed syllable. So what does this do for it? Like, what does it even matter whether it's stressed or unstressed? It creates a rhythm in the poetry. It creates a rhythm when you're speaking. So if you ever seen a Shakespearean play performed, the actors should have been speaking the words with a rhythm to it and a lot of emotion and force. So if you were to look at iambic pentameter, you can see here in this little example that we have, it goes da dum da dum da dum da dum da dum. So that's how your voice should be going as you're reading, right? You can see it's in all caps, stressed, unstressed, lowercase. So here's an example that is Shakespeare's. That wrens make prey where eagles dare not perch. The lady doth protest a bit too much. So it's not easy to read, being able to read with this type of rhythm unless you're used to it. I am not a professional Shakespearean speaker or actor, so I stumbled through it. If you stumble through it, that's okay. But we can see how, there is a rhythm. Ba-dum, 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 ba-dum. So when you are reading the play, that is what it should be kind of sounding like. Maybe it might make it a little bit more interesting for you to try to be able to create the rhythm as you're reading it out loud. It does get tricky, but it can be fun. And this is what he was really, really known for. So to make sure you have the vocabulary down, you are going to be asked questions about it. So I don't want you to be, taken by surprise or unfamiliar with any of it. So a foot, or you might see a question that says, how many feet are in this line? What it's asking is how many pairs of syllables. So a foot is 2 syllables in a line of poetry. One stressed and the other is not. Whichever way it goes doesn't matter. So it could be stressed and then unstressed, or unstressed and then stressed. The foot is just going to measure, hey, 2 syllables. So here you see an example. But soft what light through yonder window breaks. You can see the red lines are separating the pairs of syllables. So these, but soft, 1 pair, so that's 1 foot. What light is another 2 syllables, so we got 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, and so on. So if it's helpful when you're taking the exam or looking at something, if you need to maybe write it down on paper and look at it and then draw lines between the words, because sometimes, like you'll see with yonder or window, it has 2 syllables, so the foot kind of breaks a word up. So it might be easy if you write these down and then maybe draw a line for yourself just so you can see it better. Go ahead and do that. That might be, be a little helpful. All right, meter. So I know typically when we think of meters, we're thinking of measurement, some type of measurement, right? Millimeter, centimeter. However, in poetry, this is just counting the number of feet. So remember, a foot is 2 syllables. So what we have here is this little chart, which is awesome. You should have seen this in, I forgot what lesson it was, in Unit 5 or Unit 4, I believe, and it kind of breaks it down for you. If you've taken any kind of basic math classes, you know how to kind of see the beginning of the word and seeing the number that it means. So mono is 1, di is 2, tri is 3, tetra is 4, pentra 5, or not 5. Oh, anyway. So what you can see is a monometer is 1 foot. So that means it has 2 syllables in it. All right. So you're kind of, if you can count how many syllables are in a poetry, you can pretty much just divide that into 2, and then you'll be able to see what kind of meter it is. So if there's 6, then we know there's 8 feet, because 1 foot is 2 syllables, so it's an octameter. But most of the stuff that you're going to be is going to be pentameter, which is right here. The lines of syllables, that's what Romeo and Juliet is written in, most of Shakespeare's work. Not to get too worried about it. You should be okay. But this is a good chart. So I don't know if you take notes during these sessions, but I would definitely encourage it. Writing down the vocabulary, writing down these little numbers if you don't, if they don't come easily off the top of your head. Definitely something to look at. So when we're looking at I am, This is a unit of poetry that has one unstressed syllable followed by a stressed syllable. And remember that it must be in this order. If it's in a different order, then it's not iambic. All right, it's going to be something else. So I told you before my name was written in Trotsky. So right here, where it's stressed and then unstressed. And you should have seen these symbols here. If you can see to the right word, these are in your checkpoints in your little lessons when you're going over it. You'll see them over the word. So this is kind of cool. So if you see the dashed symbol, then you know it means stressed. And if you see the little U, or like half a circle, it means unstressed. So you can kind of think of it as your voice goes up in a line and then it goes the bottom of a U going down. So stressed, unstressed. In that order, it's a trochee. If it's the opposite order, unstressed to stressed, I am. If it's, there's a lot of different ones, but another one that's kind of common is going to be stressed, stressed, unstressed. So that is dactyl. But you don't really see that one too much. You're just going to see these first two. So don't worry too much about dactyl. And there it is closer. It's a good time to see how you're feeling. If you're feeling overwhelmed or you feel like you have no idea what just happened, pause the video, take a breather, maybe rewind and go over some things. If you weren't taking notes before, pause it, go back, start taking notes, make sure you have them ready. Because you can use your notes on your exams. You can use your notes on your exams, so take notes. It'll be helpful, it'll be beneficial, all right? You shouldn't be feeling too overwhelmed because you should have gone over this in your lessons already or are going through them. But if you are, that's okay. You know, if you maybe need a little bit more help, let me know. And definitely, you know, walk through some of these with you. So let's get some practice. What we're going to look at is Home Burial by Robert Frost. A lot of you probably heard of Robert Frost. He's a very famous poet. We're not going to read a whole poem. This is just a couple lines of Home Burial. This is a pretty popular one, so maybe you guys have read it, maybe you haven't. Either way, we're just going to be looking at the syllables. So, let's go ahead. He saw her from the bottom of the stairs before she saw him. She was starting down, looking back over her shoulder at some fear. Okay, so we know it's not rhyming. All right, how many syllables are in a line? And remember that a line of poetry is not the same as a sentence, because if we were going to ask about sentences, then the first sentence would be the whole first line and half of the second where the period is, right? But poetry doesn't really count by sentences. It's just lines. So the line is going to be, the first line would be, he saw her from the bottom of the stairs. All right, so let's look at this and count how many syllables. He saw her from the bottom of the stairs. All right, if you have your fingers counting with you, that was 10. So there's 10 syllables in the first line. So if we wanted to count the other ones, before she saw him, she was starting down. 10 syllables again, all right? So we can kind of get a clue. It's, you know, they're pretty much the same. So 10 syllables in a line, not bad. What kind of rhyme would this be? I am or Trotsky? What do you think? He saw her from the bottom of the stairs. You slow it down, do it. Say it out loud. It'll help. When looking at poetry and kind of focusing on it this closely, it's very hard to do it in your head. It's not impossible, but unless you're, you know, like a genius with poetry, which I know I personally am not, it's a lot easier to just kind of say it out loud and hear your voice. This also helps train your ear to listen for it. So I really encourage you guys to say these things out loud. All right, so if we look here, I went ahead and the words in pink, or the syllables in pink, are the ones that are stressed. So he saw her from the bottom of the stairs before she saw him. she was starting down, looking back over her shoulder at some fear. Okay, so if we were to look at this, the pink we know is stressed. The dark purple color is unstressed. So what do we know from our vocab? If it's unstressed, stressed, then it's iambic. And we know there's 10 syllables, so it's written in iambic pentameter. You will notice that this third line has 11 syllables, and that's going to be a stylistic thing that he has. So he knows the rules, and he's going to kind of play with them to get style in there. That's why he has 11 in this third line. Yeah, that's how you would be able to kind of separate and see, listen to how your voice fluctuates. He saw, or from the bottom of the stairs. It sounds weird, it does, but that's how it's written, and that's how it's kind of meant to be read. Usually when you want to read poetry out loud, people tend to have like a lot more practice. They work on the way their voice fluctuates and flows with their words. Not easy. Takes a lot of practice, which is surprising. You wouldn't really, guess that at first. But so this is a good example to look at. And if you are interested to know what this woman is looking at in some fear, go ahead and Google Home Burial by Robert Frost. It's a pretty interesting poem and a little creepy, but interesting. So you don't have to write 2 lines of poetry. Just make sure you take the assessment. This is for the live session, so you don't need to worry about that. But make sure that if you're doing this as an asynchronous session to get points, that you do complete the assessment, or else I don't know that you watched the video. I don't know if you were able to get anything from it. So of course you wouldn't be able to get any points. All right, so go ahead and take the assessment, complete it. If you have any questions about it, or about if you want more help in blank verse, come contact me. This was just a really quick overview, but we can get into more detail about it, okay? So just let me know what you need. I'm here for you. Good luck on your unit exam. Let me know if you need any help. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.